This presentation is about revising format to unify text. To help clarify terms, we can define format as the arrangement of the text on the page, which we can call layout, and the visual features of the print, which we can call typography. So those are the two tiers of format, layout and typography. And format unifies a text by making it easier for readers to understand the information. To create an effective page layout, consider these different tools. For one, the margins. Most professional documents would require 1-inch margins and page numbers within them. Consult style guides or manuals for what the margins should actually be, and also where to place the page numbers, whether on the right, the left, the center, or in the header or footer. For line spacing, it's generally recommended to use single spacing for professional documents. You might be familiar with double spacing from school, which was more for a function of instructors to provide feedback. But still, some editing will take place with the copy on a double-spaced document, which helps for the providing of feedback. In any case, make sure you avoid orphans and widows, which is a print layout term for two things. Orphans refer to headings that are at the bottom of the page, but the text that goes with it is on the next page. This doesn't look very good, so avoid it. Widows refer to text of body text that's at the top of the page, but it's so small as to be sort of awkward there at the top. For example, it might be one line or two lines, or even just a word. Try to avoid these by manipulating the spacing, or even inserting a manual space or return so that a paragraph or heading section moves to the next page. You want to take advantage of white space to set off material from the surrounding text. This would include the padding around images. It would include also the way that the lists are constructed if you use them. For indentation, many would think that you need both a 0.5 indent for each new paragraph and an extra space, but it's recommended that you avoid this. Instead, choose one or the other. Either for your paragraphs, have a 0.5 indent for the first line, or have no indent and use an extra space, but don't do both. When you have an extra space between each paragraph and don't do indent, that's called block style. And if you think about it visually, what you see on the page is a series of blocks because each paragraph looks like a rectangle. Justification, generally, you want to left align or left justify the text, where it's straight on the left and ragged on the right. You could also choose full justification, in which the text is straight on both sides, which does look nice, but it can look ugly when you have the gaps between words that happen when the program is trying to stretch the lines to fit the margins. When you see well-justified text that's fully justified, it's usually been taken into a more advanced program, such as InDesign, and the tracking or spacing of the lines have been manipulated heavily and strategically to make it look nice. Color and shading can help you if you need to draw attention to elements, and these might be useful additions to a layout. For example, if you need to have a call-out box with its own additional shading. The other component of format is typography, and take advantage of it for emphasis and unity. For one, typeface. While it's debated amongst design scholars and even practitioners, you generally want to choose a serif typeface for the print, especially when it's extended, but sans serif for extended text online. If you've not encountered these terms before, look at the text in front of you on this screen. This is sans serif. If you look at any given letter, you do not see little extra strokes on each edge of the letter, which would be called serifs. This is sans serif, which is French for without serifs. If you want an example of a typography that has serifs, check Times New Roman and compare it to this one, which is Calibri, or just maybe Arial, to see the difference. Choose 10 to 12 points for most documents for the size of the text. This is generally enough. You could go smaller or choose 10 if you think that the letters are so large. One typography that has a very large design is Palatino, which when you look at it, you can see that the X height is such that you could even go down to 9 or 8 points and it would still be readable. Choose centering for headings but not for body text. It's generally the only reason you would use centering, especially if a style manual told you to center headings. There might be other cases, such as invitations, where centering makes sense, but in most professional documents, centering is reserved for headings. Choose a capitalization style for your headings, even if they're short phrases. You can consult Chicago Chapter 8, where it tells you the difference between headline style and sentence style, but whatever you choose, be consistent. For the last three items, we're all talking about emphasis. But now, with desktop publishing and some of the conventions that are developing, you typically only want to choose boldface for headings or emphasis, and underlining is pretty much on its way out. We can once say that it was just for URLs, but now even then it's not necessary. Don't choose underlining for headings, even if maybe you've done that before, because you can choose a different way to show emphasis, such as boldface or even a different complementary color. You can use italics, as discussed in Chicago Chapter 7, to draw emphasis to words or phrases in some levels of headings, and especially if the word or phrase is a key term in a technical document. So these are the ways for revising format to unify text.